Hello, my name is Cade Ross. I am a sports marketing student at Fresno State University, and today I am joined by Jesse Estrada. Jesse, thank you for joining me today.
Happy to be here.
So I'll jump right into it. The first question I have for you is, would you provide a brief summary of your current role and your primary responsibilities?
Yeah. Uh, um, so I work as a group sales account executive for the LA Clippers. Part of my job is parting on different types of group events and working with different, well, my main focus in my department is working with nonprofit organizations and then working with first responders here in the greater LA area. And then just some of the day-to-day responsibilities are kind of setting up different types of community events at LA Clippers games, kind of like a first responders game or a Korean Heritage Night or a college night or some of the different demographics or different affinity groups that we work with. So one of the main um, focuses there is kind of like promoting in a sense,
Mhm.
and then but kind of seeing everything through. So if I want to set up a night, I'll work with the community. I'll work with a trusted respected individual in that community, whether it be for the sneakerhead community or whether it be for like our Hispanic heritage. I'll work with the community and do a lot of different promotions, work with a lot of different groups to bring out affinity groups like from said community
Yeah.
or from that like specific industry or whatnot, and then kind of do a lot of different group experiences, like bringing people onto the court or different activations through a game. Like if a group's going to be a nonprofit organization of the game, kind of setting that up and working with our team to make sure that we can do different types of group experiences to acknowledge those groups at in game.
Awesome. That's very cool. Moving on to my next question I have is, what key lessons have you learned from working in sports?
Some of the biggest, I mean, the number one thing that I would say that I've learned from sports is that you just really have to communicate with whoever you're working with.
Yeah.
A lot of times I feel like it's pretty difficult to ask for help on things, but you'll be better off in the long run if you ask, people for help. That's one of the biggest things because I would never be successful if I didn't communicate to my team or a different department that we work with in game, like, hey, we need to make just all of the details. If you had no context all the time, you would just kind of not really be very productive. So I think that's something that's huge, especially because in the sports industry, there's so many different things going on any different game that if no one knows like one specific thing that's going on, it kind of throws like a wrench into the engine of what makes it look smooth.
Mhm.
Um, the other like another lesson that I would say that I've learned from working in the sports industry would be if you don't know, yeah, if you don't know the answer to a question, it's okay to say no, and no is good enough to be a complete sentence. A lot of times I feel like people, when get asked a question by a client, they want to try and figure out an answer right away, or they want, something to tell that person. But if you do not have the answer, it's okay to say no, but then you can answer and follow up with like, I don't have that answer right now. I'm going to write that down and follow up with whoever I need to follow up with, and I can get back to you with an update. And then just make sure that follow up on that.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times people will not have an answer to a question and they'll kind of go off of the knowledge that they have in their mind at the time, but they might be missing some key elements, but they'll still answer based off that. And if
Mhm.
they answer and they answer incorrectly, then they end up having to backtrack and then kind of fix the situation that they almost created for themselves. So that I would say is a big one. And then just following up is probably the biggest thing, is making sure that you're following up with people. It's very easy in your day to day. Someone calls in, no matter how small the task or how big the task. Like say if someone's like, hey, I'm following up on, or someone's asking day to day to not to be like, okay, I don't really work with that. Like, I'm sure someone else is going to take care of it. But no, it's if someone calls or you meet someone at a game, you really want to give that person time and attention, make sure that they're taken care of. Um, and be able to answer any questions. But at the same time, though, don't necessarily take on unnecessary responsibilities that don't have to do exactly with your job. sometimes you can you can reach out or connect them to someone that might be able to help them, or you can connect them to a department, but you don't necessarily always need to see it from finish to through. If someone, say someone comes into the arena, they're like, hey, I need to find um ADA wheelchair accessible seats. Like I
Mhm.
I don't necessarily need to handhold with that person all the way until they sit down in those seats, but I know where that they need to go to get services in the building, and I have the information so I can
Mhm.
direct them where to go and make sure that they're taken care of. Um, but I don't need to like see that 100% through, because it could divert you from getting what you need to get done at a game. But just making sure that people need help, or at least pointed in the right direction, I think is big.
Yeah, awesome. Next question I have is what are 1 to 2 highlights from your career in sports?
Um, One or two highlights. One of my first career highlights would be I was actually working for the LA Kings
Mhm.
before the pandemic. And one of the nights that, I was really proud of was I had put together our Armenian Heritage Night. Um, and that night hadn't been done in over 10 years at the time when I put it on. I put it on in 2019, and it had not been done since 2009. We had a lofty goal. Typically, I would say for group nights, we're trying to aim for anywhere between 500 and 1,000, just to kind of people coming out for a certain organization to kind of consider it a little bit of a success. At
Yeah.
that time, since we had not done it in a long time, the goal was for like 300 tickets, and I ended up just working my tail off. Promoted the night. There was an LA Kings Hall of Famer that I drove personally to
Oh,
an
that's awesome.
interview out in Glendale. So that experience was great. He got to tell me some of his best stories, and I could have almost about 3 hours of personal time driving through LA traffic, kind of hearing from him. But all in all, we put on an incredible night. We had over, I think it was over just under 800 individuals that came out. So, I hit that goal out of the park. Um, and just got to really learn a lot about the community and the culture, and figure out what makes it tick. Like I didn't know that there were so many subcultures of the Armenian community. Like I didn't know that certain parts of the church don't get along. So I put together an offer, and I was like, okay, what is going to bring the community together? And that one was um, we had like a co-branded scarf for the flag and the LA Kings like scarf, and then in the ticket price, I worked with the beneficiary in the community, which was the Armenian American Museum. I figured that's what all of the subcultures were gonna, combine over, or get together over, and that was part of it. So just promoting that night and working with the beneficiary, the community, going to events in their community to like giveaways and connect, and tell people about the night coming up. We had a home run. They wrote an article about it as well. I can send that to you if you are interested in seeing that. But one thing that they wrote in it was just that the LA Kings had set the bar for any professional organization to acknowledge a community. And I really I thought that was incredible. We were
Yeah.
getting our flowers. So that was one of them. Um, Second one, I would just say this whole entire season, with my team,
Mhm.
like with my group's department, I don't think I've ever worked with I have not worked with a more closer team. We click, and we've got a lot of great team chemistry. So just, a great year of supporting my team, and we're a very big we before me type team. So
Yeah.
that's something that I really resonate with, and I appreciate. Is just someone that I know, or knowing that I can count on my team, and we'll be able to help each other out no matter what. It's probably been my second highlight.
That's awesome. That's super cool. All right. So the last question I have for you is what advice would you offer college students or recent graduates pursuing a career in sports?
One of the biggest pieces of advice, I had a mentor in college. I went to San Diego State University,
Mhm.
studied business finance there, and the business college dean, they had told me at that time, like, hey, it's very important that you work in an industry that you enjoy.
Mhm.
Which at the time, all of my colleagues and all my peers in college were kind of more looking for a title. They wanted a specific job. And I think coming to find out in the business world and sports and entertainment, every single company has all of the jobs. But I think it's important to work in a industry. So for me, I went to pursue to be a financial advisor right after college, and worked in finance for a little bit. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't
Yeah.
all that I had like brought it up to be, but I and then after that I was like, okay, what do I want to do? I wanted to figure something out. I didn't know I know I'm from about an hour north, but I didn't know anyone in LA. And I think I just really wanted to challenge myself on the next step. And I moved from San Diego to LA, but I applied to every single job like that I and interviewed for everything I could, and I ended up landing a job with the LA Kings. But I would say, don't be afraid to look off part-time positions in sports. Don't be afraid to look off the internships. Like definitely go for those. Something that I would say if you are looking to pursue a job in sports yourself, um, I would say, if you see a job or if you see a position that you're interested in, you want to go after, become a sponge. If try and like reach out to people and say, hey, like I'm interested in pursuing a job in sports. I see you work in this job in sport or in sports. I would love to connect with you and just like find out a little bit more about what you do. Especially, were you at the sports incubator program? I think
I was,
was it
yes.
January 19th?
Yes, I was there.
Perfect. So prime example, like, you write down those names,
Yeah.
like, or if or if there's a list that has of the people who are participating, I would write or just take those names down, start adding all of them on LinkedIn, say, hey, um, if you were in a session that they were on, say, hey, like, I really appreciated what you said. It was great connecting with you. Would love to find out a little bit more about what you do in your day to day if you have some time to connect within the next few weeks.
Yeah.
And then if the person says no, like no worries. Hey, that's okay. That's the thing. You're gonna get
Mhm.
no sometimes, but don't take it personally. Um, but then if they don't answer, most of the time they're probably just busy in their day to day. If you send a follow up, hey, just want to connect with you, see if you saw my message. Just like, would it be possible to connect? Most people, especially if you follow up, again, big to follow up. If most people will be like, hey, I'm really sorry. Right now is not a good time. Can we connect X, Y, Z day? Or some people will be like, yeah, actually, I'm so sorry. I don't check this every day, like, or I'm just, just really busy with season or whatnot. But yeah, would be happy to connect, like 30 minutes or so and just answer any questions or kind of to find out more about you and answer any questions that you have about the industry.
Mhm.
That would be one. Um, And if there's people that you didn't get to see on a session, then I would just add them and send them a message. Hey, like I did not get to see your session or did not get to like get in a breakout room with you. But I wanted to add you because if it's a person that works in a sport or somewhat of an industry that you're interested in, you can tell them, hey, like that you could say, I'm interested in that. I didn't get to hear from you. Would love to connect and find out a little bit more. Like it seems kind of in that sense, it almost kind of seems like you feel like they're not going to respond, but you'll probably get more positive responses than you do, um, than like no's, because people
Mhm.
kind of want to pay it forward. It is an industry that sometimes people don't necessarily know how to get into sports, but just by asking, you'll end up seeing more responses than if not, anyways, too. So there's that. But
Yeah. Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for that. Well, as I said, that was
what?
my last question. So I just want
Okay.
to thank you again for joining me and giving out all that great information. It was really valuable.